Oh hi! It's time for the next Neon Zombie in this series to teach you some staple things to help you with all sorts of SFX endeavors. But I don't mean to leave ya hanging, so let's get to it. Grab some white or skin-toned gift tissue paper. White is pretty much my skin tone anyway, so this works for me. Then you're going to rip a sheet apart into a rough circle just large enough to cover your eye. You basically want to feel for your eye socket and then make sure that the tissue paper reaches to that point all the way around. Then taking spirit gum, Pros-Aid, latex, lash glue, whatever sticky cosmetic thing you got, you lay that on the eye socket area. But, be careful with your eyebrows. Unless you're using Pros-Aid, you should go right above the brow and not actually on it. No matter which of these adhesives you're using, give it a minute to get tacky and then lay your tissue paper down. Make sure this is not in any way glued to your actual lid. You should be able to blink freely underneath of the paper. Then to build our poor, accident-prone eyeball, we're going to be using my favorite, cotton and latex. But I got a sweet analogy to explain this one. Okay, so basically, you want to build a castle on top of your eyeball to protect it. To do this, you want to sit a thin piece of cotton over your lid and very lightly cover the top of it with latex. Just enough so that it sticks to the tissue paper, but not so much that it's dripping at any point. The contact should always remain on the cotton and the paper and never be saturated enough to sink through the tissue paper. The tissue paper is like the soil for our castle, and if you get it all soggy, your castle's gonna sink, okay? Now we're gonna build a moat around the castle. See this circular wall I'm making out of cotton and latex? That's your moat. Get to it. Sculpt it like you are Michelangelo himself. I'm using a white disposable sponge and my fingers to do the work. You don't want to learn the hard way that latex ruins brushes. Once you're satisfied with your socket, it's time to hang loose. I'm taking one rolled out cotton ball and dipping the end of that in latex before struggling to get it to stick to our castle. But don't give up, it can be done. Now you don't want this part to be too heavy, so only worry about covering the outside in latex lightly rather than saturating the entire thing. I'm not sure what this eyeball string would be in relation to our castle, so I guess the analogy ends here. No, wait, it's a drawbridge. Okay, let's keep it going. Then take a cotton ball in its natural bally shape and roll that around in a baby pool of latex. Then I poked a little hole in one side of it so I could encapsulate the end of my eyeball string and give it as much surface area as possible to adhere to. You'll probably have to hold your eyeball securely in place at the end of your eyeball string until it's fully dry, or it might pop right off like it's a cannonball being shot from a castle. Full circle. Then I decided I wouldn't be needing this anymore. To start giving my zombie skin some texture, I'm applying latex in a thin coat over random parts of my face and neck. Let it about halfway dry and then use a palette knife or tweezers or whatever works to pick or rub open tiny holes in the latexed areas. This is one of the techniques I also use to make burns, which you can find in my very old burn tutorial. Time to paint. I'm taking this neon yellow water activated paint from Kryolan, activating it by adding water to it and painting it on as though it's my foundation. Then I'm taking concealer, but I should have taken a brown aqua paint for this part like I do in the zombie mouth tutorial. I'm not sure why I did this, so only take half of my advice here. And I'm covering the white of the cotton and the tissue paper so it won't be abnormally bright when I put the yellow on top of that. Then I adjusted the white balance so the color was more true to real life. Sorry for that switch. Now, normally for inside an empty eyeball socket, I'd use dark red for the base, but since we're a neon zombie, I'm replacing it with a purple aqua paint. I'm following that color down our stringy eyeball and transitioning it into blue before we can reach the eyeball itself. I also added some black paint inside the socket to add depth too. Then using the same sponge technique from my super old bruise tutorial, literally day one of tutorials, we are going to use this to create neon bruises. Long story short, pick off tiny pieces of a disposable sponge until the top of it looks all jagged and uneven like this. Then dipping that end in pinks and purples, I'm going to stipple that around the eye in a random fashion. I fill in some of my fleshy rotten skin wounds with purple and blue, randomly stop to paint my lips purple, and then continue on giving a light bruise texture all over the entire face using those same colors. Remember that when using aqua paints, the more water you use, the less opaque the colors will be. Give yourself some neon eyebrows. I changed the color of these about 3 times, so don't mind me. And then start getting glam by doing some fancy eye makeup like maybe a cat eye or a cut crease, but make sure whatever you do on one side, you do to the other more pulpy side. This zombae's makeup was done before her eyeball accident, so it doesn't make sense that she wouldn't have eyeliner over there. That goes for lashes too. I'm using a purple matte eyeshadow to contour my cheeks and nose, and also using it to create some super glam looking eye irritation on my remaining good eye. But only one good eye won't stop me from dancing. This is actually a good opportunity to remind you that with one eye covered, your depth perception will be all kinds of messed up, so don't dance too hard or do anything requiring you to be able to tell how far away objects are from you. Seriously. Anywho, continue using purple eyeshadow wherever you see fit. I added some on the sides of my neck and in the crease of my eyelid. I lined my lips in black. You can do that if you so choose or not, but one thing I highly recommend you do: scab blood, obviously. Get it all up in that eye socket and string thing, and heck, fill in the rest of that eyeball hole that you poked earlier like you're filling a jelly donut. It's like you're icing a cake, a popped out eyeball cake, a cake pop. Now, I didn't draw an iris or pupil on my eyeball because I was planning to put these in. Feel free to match your eyeball though to whatever eye color or contacts you have. And voila, you are one sexy zombie. You're radiant. So radiant you practically glow. Well, under blacklight at least. You glow under blacklight. But don't forget to swing by the previous 2 neon zombaes and stay tuned for the last 3. Later, dudes. Oh, eyeball mustache?
No.
Oh god, I'm gonna sneeze my eye off. I love you, zombies. I whip my arm back and forth. I whip my arm back and forth. I'm gonna have a whole collection of these things. I whip my skin back and forth. I whip my hair back and forth. Whip my